On today's episode of That Mental Ginger Show, we are talking to comedian Laura Quinn Goh. Laura was such a delight. I don't say that about a lot of guests, but it's because I get good guests. What can I say? She was really knowledgeable and helped enlighten me on a lot of different things. And it was a very interesting talk, especially about the comedy circuits and about what life was like in Singapore. Actually, why am I giving all this away? Let's watch the episode because it's brilliant. Let's cut to the intro, guys.
All right, troops.
Hello, my faithful followers. First of all, I want to say thank you so much to everybody that has liked and subscribed and tunes in to the podcast. I cannot believe that we have 5,000 subscribers. We get an average of 1,000 views per episode. Mind-boggling. I am completely blown away. As many of you know, I have begun the process of creating my own media company, Ginger Media Scotland. While I'm really excited about this venture, I am also absolutely terrified because I need to make money. Yes, I've been monetized on YouTube, but I still need to provide for my wife and my two brilliant boys. So this is a little call to arms. If you or anyone you know is a small business, a big business, please get into contact me and see about sponsoring That Mental Ginger Show. 5,000 subscribers. An average of 1,000 listeners per episode. I'm sure we could cut a reasonable deal. Everybody knows that I have no morals and need the money. So if you're interested, contact me at gingerparodies87@gmail.com. Take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye. Laura, a pleasure to have you on That Mental Ginger Show. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's really great to be here, as you can see from my persistent messages in your DM. Like, let me on this podcast.
It's the first time I can actually say someone has slid into my DMs. I've never had that before. Well, is that how they say it? I'm an old man. We don't know these things anymore. Well, I barely understand the internet these days.
Yeah, me too. A lot of kids say things like, "Oh, that's so base," and I just have to pretend like I understand what that means. I'm not that young either.
Yeah, but in fairness, I'll be 35 this month. I would definitely say that you're younger than me. By probably a fair amount of years. If I was to guess, I would have said 20.
Oh, damn. Okay, thank you so much. I'm 26. Asians don't raisin.
Now, see, you can say that. I say that, I would be in deep trouble. But fair, it's the same as my wife, who isn't Asian. I'll clarify that right now. But she's 5 years older than me, so she'll be 40 this year, and she looks younger than me. She looks about like 25, 26. But it's like my future boss at Bad Pony Media said that he would cast her at 29, and I'm like, yes, she's old enough to know better, but young enough to get ID'd. That's the dream.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough about me and my madness. We're here to talk about you, Laura. Well, I want to hear about your origin story, because the one thing that we all have in common is that we all have an origins. So please, for my faithful followers, tell us your origin story.
Okay, my villain origin story. My name is Laura Quinn Goh, and I come from Singapore. That's a small country, nation, island, like in Southeast Asia, near Malaysia, near Indonesia. And I started performing comedy 2-3 years ago. Like I performed comedy in Singapore for 1 year before the pandemic hit, and then there were no performances allowed, and I moved over to Glasgow in September 2021. I actually started performing comedy. It's kind of I don't know if you would call it like a classic story. It's more like, well, I went to a couple of comedy shows. Some of my friends were doing comedy, and I went to a comedy show, and I saw a really bad comic, the male comic, and I was like, wow, I could do better, and I hope I did so far.
Yeah, well, I've seen like some of the gigs that you've got coming up, and I've got to say, what you're on bill with some really good comedians who have actually had on this podcast as well. What like Jimmy Longmuir, Brian Kavanagh, Silas as well. Our mutual friend. And they're very, very good comedians, very, very talented. Yeah. So you're swinging in the right circles.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with how far I've come because, in Singapore, I never felt like I got a lot of recognition. There weren't a lot of opportunities. And then when I came to Glasgow in September 2021, I guess like within 8 months, I've managed to, I'm performing at Glee Club next week. And I also am going to do weekend spots at the Stand Edinburgh and the Stand Glasgow. So
that's amazing. That's fantastic. Well done.
Thank you. I'm quite proud of that because I think I'm kind of like the first Singaporean to do that.
But is that the right term, like Singaporean? Like, because again, if I said that, I would be in deep trouble.
It is the correct term.
Correct term. Cool. No, this is the things that I was telling you about before we went on here, that I'll be like kind of nosy and I'll pick in bits that'll be that I'll want to find out about. But it's nothing intentionally bad. It's just that I'm a nosy git. I like to find that. It's why I thought
more.
Oh, please do. Like anything that you could enlighten me on. Like I always like hearing about other cultures and other ways of communicating and all that kind of stuff. Again, I remember I used to work when I worked in my day job. There was a guy, and he was originally from Africa and then moved to London with his family and then came up to Scotland. And me being me, I was asking him tons of questions, and my work and my work colleagues are going, "Oh God, Andrew, no, you don't ask these questions." But he's killing himself laughing, and he's loving it. He's loving answering these questions and letting know, because he knows that I'm not intentionally meaning to be bad. I'm just nosy and I'm curious. I get it. It's what I like to know. So, so you only came to Glasgow in 2021. I've got to ask, why?
Oh, I ask myself that every day in the winter. I came to Glasgow to study for my master's at the university.
Wow. Yeah. So what you studying?
I study management and sustainable tourism.
Wow. I'll probably need your advice with me setting up my media company going forward, and how to manage that and not make an arse of it.
I before coming to Glasgow, I actually worked for 3 years in Singapore in public relations and communications. So wow. Could hire me. Look at my LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, definitely we will be plugging all those links to anybody that is listening to this podcast closer to the end of the show. So tell me a bit about Singapore. What is it like over there? Like, we just get this kind of stereotypical, images and stuff, but what's it like living there?
What it's like living there, I would say that it's a great place to live and to work, but I would say that if you wanted to come on holiday, it's better to go elsewhere in Southeast Asia. Singapore, it's a very small place. It's about the size of, I think, 7 Glasgows with the population of Scotland itself.
Wow.
All crammed in that space. It's a very cosmopolitan city. Glasgow is limited. I thought it was a town when I first came here.
In fairness, see whenever I go into Glasgow for work or whatever, I say or going to do any gigs, I say, I'm going into town. But technically, where I live in Coatbridge, that's a town, and Glasgow's a city. So, as you'll probably realise, Scottish language is very, very confusing at times. We'll just say, we're just going down the road, and it's about 10 miles away.
Yeah.
So, wow, that is very dense population. Obviously in Singapore, and we spoke a little bit before we came on the podcast, and you'd mentioned that there was issues kind of around their awareness of mental health. Could you clarify a bit more about that for me, if you're comfortable with it?
Yeah, of course. Okay, so Singapore is, in Asia, they are Asian, just so you have a bit of a breakdown of the racial demographics, which I think is relevant. Singapore is about 60 or 70, is it? 60-70% Chinese descent. So meaning that Chinese migrants probably arrived 3 generations ago. My great-grandparents were born in China, so a lot of people are kind of like that, or maybe generations around there. About 20% are Malay, and about 10, little less than 10% would be Indian. So you can actually, it is kind of a multicultural city, but very much Asian. So yeah, a little bit generally, like in Asia, a lot of people probably hear that we don't really talk a lot about mental illness that much. In Singapore, it can be a bit of a dire problem. I'm not an expert, but like you've seen, like Japan has like pretty high suicide rates. In Singapore, it's kind of a little bit similar. For a small population, I think we have at least 1 or 2 suicides a day. So it can be quite, I would say that mental health is, and it's also partly because mental health is not something that we really talk about, not something that we really like discuss with our parents, with like other people. There's a lot of pressure because we're Asian, pressure to succeed. We start testing our kids, we start testing like and streaming our children at the age of 12 into good schools and bad schools. And and then like again at O levels at 16 or 17, and then like again at 18, 19. So there's a lot of pressure to succeed.
Yeah, definitely. Like you're basically you're essentially running like a version of the Hunger Games. It's like okay, this one has a chance to succeed, right? The rest will just put them in a fight to the death, like a combination of Hunger Games and Squid Game. That's wow. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, like everybody experiences pressure like from their parents because they want their kids to do well. I understand that now, being a dad. I mean, I used to joke saying I wanted my kids to be world dictators by the time they were 6 and they're 4. They've got 2 years to go.
My parents wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. Yeah. When I first came to Glasgow, they knew that the university had a great medical school. So they were kind of like, why don't you marry a doctor, please?
Is that still
go hang out there?
Is that still the thing where they're like, right, go marry a doctor, like go marry a lawyer, so that way you're in money?
Yeah, kind of. Like before I even got to Glasgow, my mom found a friend who had a son in the university in the medical school, and she was like, why don't you contact him, please? Here's his phone number, contact him and just hang out with him.
Wow. So just obviously just being nosy, as we've established, I'm very nosy. Well, the hypothetical scenario, if I wasn't married and didn't have the kids, I was just coming up and talking to you, would your parents be like, no, he's ginger, go away?
Possibly. It would depend on what your job is.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of racism in Singapore, actually, still. Yeah.
Yeah, I was more curious than anything else. So obviously, as I said, very happily married and two lovely kids. But you always heard those type of things about, oh, why don't you go with him? But when I was younger, it was always, stay away from him. He's ginger, so your kids could be ginger. And I'm like,
are your kids ginger?
Nope, they're blonde. But because the ginger gene, the NCR1 genetic chromosome, is transmitted by the mother.
Oh, so if you have a ginger mom, you're more likely to have ginger kids.
Yep. So all those years, my mom said that she was Auburn. She was fucking lying. Because me and my brother, both carrot tops, but our kids, my twin boys and my niece, they're both blonde. So
you have the weak genes.
Well, not weak enough, because identical twins for me, it's when the guy basically splits it. So Alison can legitimately and biologically say they're my fault. So I'm like, fair enough. Quite literally, I took the hit on that one, but they're not ginger, so I can't get blamed for that one. That's really interesting to hear, though. That does still kind of go on. I mean, like I said, I always had that for the, he's ginger, just stay away because your kids could be ginger. Like gingers are like the devil's minions and all that kind of stuff. I get hit at, and I'm like, man, in a way, I sympathize with that kind of side.
It's not really about for Asian parents, it wouldn't really be about you being ginger. It's more about you being white.
Wow.
Because sometimes Some parents, they want you to marry within your own race. And even in Singapore, we are multicultural, but sometimes there are a lot of times when people can be a bit racist. For example, Chinese would be racist against like Indians. It's the typical, majority privilege thing.
Right. Because sadly, it's that type of racism is everywhere. There's all the typical, like, you sure you want to marry her? Like, there's this and there's that, and you're like,
so many stereotypes. It's another thing that people would have, like, oh yeah, this kind of people, they would do this.
It's like straight away, like, you sure you want to marry a Scotsman where all they do is
drink,
what drink and wear kilts and go and hunt for haggis.
Sure you want to marry a Glaswegian? All they do is carry around golf clubs and not for golfing.
Yeah. I always think when it comes to the golf, I just think of the infamous Robin Williams sketch. When he did his stand-up about that, it was just it was unreal. Then talking about like how he came up with the idea for the kilts and all that as well. So who would you say was your like kind of stand-up inspiration?
I would say that my stand-up inspirations are, I usually like to listen to female comics. So I would say it's Ali Wong, Shazia Mirza. I love Ramesh Raghunathan, Hassan Minaj. As you can see, most of them are female or minority comics. And that's the kind of thing that I would say I relate to quite a lot. Yeah. Sometimes British comics, they make a lot of British references, which I don't understand. Like, I don't understand like sectarianism that well, for example. And they have a lot of that kind of jokes, or any Channel 4 jokes. And I'm like, I don't know these things. And that was a bit of a problem for me when I came here, because I was thinking to myself, like, what if I'm not British enough to appeal to audiences here? But I think after like one show, one guy, he was Scottish, but he was of Indian descent. I did a gig and he came up to me and he said, I really related to your material about being an immigrant in the UK. And then people asking me, are you like marrying your girlfriend, boyfriend for the passport? Why is your English so good?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it just proves, my friends, racism. It really is everywhere. Well, and yeah. Also, that's a light-hearted joke. I try and fail. That's why I'm not a good comic.
I mean, I think that it's sometimes about finding your audience, For me, I guess my audience wouldn't necessarily get a lot of jokes about like immigrating and like culture, my kind of culture and how I grew up. Yeah. So yeah, that's why I do appeal to a lot of internationals and students, I hope, I think.
I would say so. And even just like the fat middle-aged white guy that is myself, I can already tell that you're very charming, like you're very witty, you're extremely intelligent. So you've got a lot going for you that most audiences around the world would relate to. So definitely don't sell yourself short. Like you're very no, you're very welcome. Again, I call it as I see it. If you were shit, I would tell you. I'm a bit. I have
middle of the podcast. Hey, Laura, you're shit.
Yeah, I do. I have the subtlety of a brick to the face. But I just take that from my own honesty. It's the same deal. So you know what you're dealing with up front, and it's why like when I did my stand up, it was about my mental health. What I do my stand up on, because that's the thing that resonates with me. That's what I suffer with, and that's what I want to use to. That's why I do this podcast and do those type of things to enlighten about the stigmas around mental health. And if I can laugh at it, then they can too. What if need be is like, just don't be like, oh, I hope you kill yourself. And I'm like, well, I've tried it 4 or 5 times, still hasn't succeeded.
You can joke. You can be like, I can joke about it because I've done it.
Yeah, I'm like, what? Because I did one part of the set, and it was about like how people who are on medication for their mental health always try and compare. It's essentially mental health dick measuring.
I know, it's like, oh, are you on lithium? I'm on 50 mg of this. What's your Lexapro dosage? I see that a lot with my friends too.
Yeah, because I do that, because that's what I said. I was like, is anybody on sertraline? Somebody would put that, and someone always puts their hands up, because sertraline's the common one, and that's the one I'm on.
I thought it would be Lexapro. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's sertraline's kind of the more, it has kind of the less side effects. Like I was on fluoxetine once, and my body just broke out in hives. It's like I looked like the ginger elephant man. It was unreal. So
I
someone
used
always
to take Lexapro.
wow. What so
Uh,
now I have to ask how many mils?
I can't remember. They kind of like I was prescribed it, and then like after a few months, they were like, you should stop taking it because I decided to take like all of them at one shot.
Wow.
I can joke about it now, but
Yeah.
like yeah, so they were kind of like, yeah, you're not mentally stable enough to have medicine in your hands, so they took it away.
Wow. But with me, it was just like, right, okay, we start you at 50. Now you're at 100. Now you're at 200. Now we can't go any higher. Right, so you are stuck. It's like we can only give you other pills to knock you out. And I'm like,
Just
so I can
pills
sleep.
upon pills.
Yep,
Yeah.
but pills and more pills. When I took my psychotic breakdown, they gave me I cannot remember what the pill was for the life of me, but it basically knocked me out for 22 out of 24 hours. Well, at a time, and I was like, this is fantastic. I can just sleep. It's like I'm just a rabbit. This is awesome. I can just sleep for God knows how long and then just hop about.
Yeah, it's like taking like general anesthesia. It's like, they just tell you like, okay, breathe 3 times, and then like then you wake up like, oh, you're done.
Yeah, but I've never experienced the anesthesia side of it before. What thankfully, touch wood, as they say. So tell my audience, like, where are you going to be performing? What gigs have you got coming up? What, sell it, sell yourself.
Oh yeah, so I'll be performing at Glee Club on the 24th of June. I think that's next Friday, and I think on the second weekend of July, I'll be performing at the Stand Edinburgh, and the second weekend of August, I'll be performing at the Stand Glasgow. And for the Fringe, I will be opening for my friend from Singapore. He's bringing his own show, and I begged him like, please let me open for you. So I have my gigs on my Instagram. You can see I made a little link tree because I'm a professional who like puts all my links in one place. Yeah.
In fairness, like when I try to do the links, I'm like, well, I made the link tree, and then I was like, I'll just put it in my description, and then they can just follow wherever they find
mine
it.
is there.
Yeah. So where's the best places that my audience can hunt for you? Obviously, we've established that you're on Instagram. That was where you found me in my insanity.
Yeah. on Instagram, I'm like at gopi.on.the.rocks. That's a reference that in Singapore, gopi means coffee, so it literally means coffee on the rocks. Then on Facebook, I have a Facebook page. It's at Laura Q Goh. It's just Laura Quinn Goh. Yeah.
Interesting. Right. So I will definitely get you added on the other socials. Like for my audience, like the links will be in the description. And feel free to check it out. This is what I love to find out. We need more diverse acts that can bring their knowledge and their cultures to us, so guys like me don't feel like a complete ass asking questions. And
it's okay to ask questions.
I feel like, if I ask this question, am I a racist? I don't know. But it's like, ask it anyway, and they will tell you. Which is something I've just found out kind of as I've went along. But
it's okay. I ask like really dumb questions to my friends too. Sometimes I ask my ginger friends like, do you put on sunscreen every day, all the time?
Yeah. Or have you asked the one yet about like, if they have, if the carpet matches the curtains kind of thing?
I have asked my ginger friend who wears a kilt because he's a bagpipe guy. I have asked him like, do you wear underwear underneath that?
Yep. Well, the traditional answer is yes, but for my wedding, I was so glad I didn't, because I got dropped. When they were holding me up, and in mid-air, you saw up the kilt, and I was like, thank God I had my boxers on at that point.
Oh, what were you doing? Were you like a Scottish pyramid?
It was essentially like
cheerleaders pyramid.
Yeah, there was just like my two best men were just basically to hoist me on their shoulders for a picture, but the hands kind of slipped and just down I went. And he took the picture as I was coming down. And my wife and her bridesmaids were all killing themselves laughing at the side. And I'm like, thanks. Never thought I'd get grass.
Look at the family jewels.
Yeah, I was like, I never thought I would get grass stains on my wedding day for this reason. Well, I was just glad the kilt didn't get it, because it was a hire, and I'm like, oh God, I don't want to take it back. And then be like, yeah, funny story. I'm like, here's the evidence. Like, just as I was falling down. It was brilliant. But I was for a ginger, I was very worried because it was a beautiful sunny day when we got married, and I was like, I fry in like what overcast weather in Hull. I'm going to fry. I will be destroyed. I will look like a lobster three quarters of the way through my photos. But luckily that did not happen. I just think like someone was on my side that day. But yeah, any other time it's like the weather we've had recently in Scotland's been really nice, and I've been like, I can't go out. I'm like, I have to hide. Yeah. It's like my kids. Oh, what? I think gingers should hibernate over the summer. Because everybody else loves the summer, loves to go out and get a tan, all that kind of stuff. Gingers hate it. Well, at least in my case,
it's like hits at the sun, like.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the first vampire was a ginger. So we look at it and we're like, no, we can't go out anywhere. We're stuck indoors. Well, everybody else hates the winter, but we can go out in it because we don't need to worry about sunscreen or anything like that. So just let's do a hibernation. Just do a switch. Every 6 months, everybody else retreats in. The gingers come out. We can play. Well, and then when it gets to May time, we go, right, we're out. See you in a few months. Well,
I didn't think that Asians could get sunburn until I was like 18.
Oh, how badly did you get sunburned?
Quite bad. I went because Singapore is in the tropics. So I went out to the beach in the middle of the day and I hung out in the sun for several hours. And it did not go well. But I mean, for me, I'm a bit like a snake because I just turn red and then I peel and then I'm back to this color.
Yeah, I'm the same as well. I'll just get absolutely like scalped and then I'll just all kind of shed away. And so I remember when I was about 14, 15, I came back from holidays and I thought I'd got a bit of a tan. I was like, oh, you dancer, looking at my arms. Like, I think I've got a bit of a tan. It was the ginger hair in my arms coming through. And I was like, oh, man. Well, just looking at it like, come on. So my parents, what they like to do whenever they go on holiday, when they come back, they call it the white check. So they just find an excuse to come to my house and stand next to me. So they look more tanned by comparison. And that's what, and the second I told someone that, it was like always everybody over the summer, they just love to come and get their photos taken with me. And I'm thinking I'm a ticket. No, it's just because they want to look more tanned.
Yeah, I mean, like when I first came to UK, I was so shocked that everybody likes to look tanned. Like it's a lot of spray tan. I once saw a girl who was like orange and you could still see the spray.
Oh man, it's a way. That's why I'm quite glad. I mean, I don't tan because I would just look like a giant carrot.
Can you imagine if you decided to like use spray tan? I think you would.
Oh no, it wouldn't work. It's like
skin would match your hair. You would look like a brown ginger.
Yeah, I would just all I would need to do is like get myself spray tan, dye my hair green, and then I'm a carrot for Halloween. It's done. What a very simple outfit. But one of the times when we went to visit my brother-in-law down in Hull, and I came back, and I was like, what have I been? I was scrubbing my arm. I'm like, what have I been doing? And I was like, what's wrong? I'm like, my arm's really, it looks really dirty. It looks really kind of brown and manky. She went, let me see. She's like, Andrew, you've got a tan. And I'm like, what? No, I don't tan. That's not my thing. Well, and it didn't look right on me. I just thought that I felt really bogging. I had to have 2 or 3 showers a day. I'm like, oh, just get it away. I don't like it. It's like I'm used to my white. Just go. But
I'm pretty pale too. I can relate.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it was not intended to be racist.
Myself for a ghost. Oh no, I'm quite pale, like naturally pale, and I've mistaken myself for a ghost multiple times.
Definitely, it's when someone like takes a picture of you and the flash goes off, and it's like you can't tell where the part of your skin ends and the wall begins.
All my friends are like have darker skin than me, so they usually like to take photos with flash. My face is like big and round and like pale, so I look like a moon in the picture. So it's like a flash, and then I just flash back.
Well, I definitely would not say that your face is big and round. I would not say that. but definitely, you look absolutely lovely. If I'm allowed to say that without getting killed from anybody. So we are starting to come up on time. My Zoom producer has gave me the 10-minute warning. Like, damn you, Zoom. So I'll ask you the question that I ask all my guests. If you could give one piece of advice to anybody that's struggling with mental health issues at this point in time, what would that piece of advice be and why?
I would say you should always seek professional help, in addition to help from your networks. I think sometimes a lot of people in Singapore and Asia, they're a bit too shy and they rely on their partners, their friends to help them. But sometimes your friends are not equipped to help you. Maybe they want to, but they are not equipped to help you, and that's okay. So what helped for me when I was younger, I was actually kind of sent to therapy for reckless behavior, self-destructive, blah, blah, blah. I sought out a therapist, and I did dialectical behavioral therapy. Personally, for me, I mentioned that I used to take medication, but then I stopped. But without medication, I just did therapy alone instead. I did DBT, and that has really helped me regulate my own moods, as opposed to relying on something else to adjust whatever chemicals in my brain. So when I did that kind of therapy, it really helped me like catch myself, catch myself before I really sink down to my lowest feelings, and just try to cope in other ways that are healthy. So I think that finding these methods, finding professional help is, I think, is what really helped me back then. Yeah, but of course, some people, if you feel like you really need to take medication, that is also okay. Yeah.
Good advice. And one of the ones that what I liked about it was when you said sometimes your friends aren't equipped to help, and I can really relate to that, because when the times when I've taken not well with my mental health, I always feel really scared to reach out to like my family and my friends because they're so close to me. And you don't feel like you can be like 100% honest with them. You feel like you have to kind of fake being better around them, just to get like you could say you're struggling to start with, but then you think if you're not turned around within 2 weeks, all of a sudden like your mates are gonna be like, right, come on, let's get going. Obviously, that's
you feel
not
like you're a burden to them sometimes. Like
yes.
I've had some friends who I really had to help out of very dark spots, and of course I wanted to help them, but there's only so much I can do. I literally had to pull off someone I love, like literally off a ledge once, and if only he had helped sooner, you know.
No, definitely. And it's one of those things that sometimes what people say they don't want to go to like counselors or therapists, but usually that's actually the best thing, because they have no previous tie to you, they have no connection, no relationship to judge you on. They just see you as a person and just give the impartial advice. And that's the way that I always kind of looked at it when people would say like, oh, why don't you talk to Alison? I'm like, she's my wife. Like, she's the closest person in my world. I do not want to burden her with this. It's like I could tell her so much, but I don't want to tell her anymore. Like I'll talk to my therapist, and then I can feel better, and then I can enjoy the time with her. Same with like, well, if my mom and dad are like, why don't you talk to us? I'm like, you're too close. It's like for lack of a better term, Mum, I literally came out of you. There is no way. There is no chance that I am going to be like, telling the woman who gave birth to me, her son, that he wants to throw himself off a ledge, or he wants to ram his car into a wall, or I couldn't do that to my mom. I couldn't do it. Because I remember when I took not well and I had to go and live with him for 6 weeks, and she asked me like how do you just tell me how you feel, and I was like, you don't want to hear what's going on in my head right now, because I'm separated from my wife, I'm separated from my kids. If I told you what was all going on in my head, there would be no way back for me. And she understood. Well, Laura, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Definitely something that I've need just a good gab, as we say in Scotland. You're such a nice person. Like, you're doing really well on the comedy circuits, like, as I've seen from like some fellow comedians that are kicking about. I wish you nothing but success. Like, maybe one day I'll be on the same bill as you and you can completely show me up. Like, people seem to like to do that when I go on a comedy bill. Like, they're like, okay, Andrew seems to know how to take a joke. Let's rip him.
Oh,
Like,
I think it's because you're ginger. That's like the easiest target, isn't it?
it is true. It is true. I do say to them, I'm like, right, I've had a bet going for years where I said that if someone could tell a ginger joke that I have not heard, I would give them a $5. It's like that $5 is now out of circulation because I've held on to it for so long. Well, that just proves it. No one can think of one. Well, because aside from other ginger comedians, and I'm like, no, you don't count because you could come up with original stuff. Well, it has to be outside of it. Well, and then if they come up with something original, I can go, hey, you're racist. Laura, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Once again, send me your details. We'll put them in the link in the description below. We'll get you some. We'll hopefully get you some more followers. And if not, I'll just keep plugging away. I'll just plug you. It's what I do. Okay. Until next time, my faithful followers, I've been Andrew Durnan. This has been the amazing Laura Quinn Goh. Check out her comedy. We need more female representation at the gigs in particular, because female comedians are so funny and so visceral as well. They're just like, I'm going to destroy you. It's kind of like living with my it's kind of like living with my wife when she's on her bad week, but in a hilarious way. I'm always love watching female comedians because they just go, right, I have been stuck in the house or whatever I've had the shit day at my job. I'm going to destroy everybody. And they usually come out on top. So yeah, I wish you nothing but success and keep me updated with how everything's going as well. But you've slid into DMs once. I'm now permitting that. That's okay. You can contact me.
Okay. Thank you.
So until next time, my faithful followers, take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.